What's up, Buffalo Bills fans? It's been forever and a day since I've done a video. I think the last video I did was the Ryan hire, and so much has happened since then. I took a little hiatus just because I knew, um, basically step away, but let a lot of things happen. So I have a lot to talk about instead of just coming on here every 2 weeks or once every month and just but I literally could have come on once every 2 weeks and talked about the LaShawn McCoy deal, the Matt Castle, Jerry Hughes resigning, unforeseen things like Percy Harvin signing with the Bills getting Charles Clay into the fold after that long wait after his transition tag um, contract was tendered by the Bills. Um, so many things that happened. Bills basically, for the most part, in my opinion, letting players walk like C.J. Spiller, um, kind of waiting on the fence with fan favorite Brandon Spikes, things of that nature. Nothing like what we thought we were in store for on December 29th. The season-ending press conferences with Marone and Whaley, and there's just this uncomfortable air that was in the room. It was just permeating the room that had just grown over time with Marone, and it's been a point of content. Well, a big topic since Ryan's been hired is his braggadocio way about him, where he just kind of makes jokes with the Brady thing with the baseball, the first pitch, things of that nature he does. And me having lived here, in North New Jersey for as long as I have, and seeing him up close just because he's with the Jets, his local team, is constantly was in your face. He was, appointment TV, appointment radio, whether he was on the sidelines, at the lectern, or behind the microphone on radio, he just, could own it in those moments. And with what the Bills have had, I mean, as monotone and bland and just coach speak dry, blah, and everybody is wondering if Ryan is being who he is or it's a stick. And he even admitted it. He's like, sometimes I mean to, sometimes I don't. Sometimes it's just me. I think some of the stuff, it's just him being him. And then there's other times where he purposefully does say these things to take pressure off the team because he knows, his personality is much, much bigger than the average coach, as, we've seen with Bills coaches. When your best personality coach has been Shane Gailey in the last decade, that's saying something. But, I really am very inspired by a lot of the moves they made. Uh, Sans a first round pick, which I'll talk about the draft too. Obviously, a lot to get to. Just the aggressive moves they were making, even the one that they didn't get to make with Brian Bulaga. He chose to stay in Green Bay, which I can't blame him for. He was a 2 hour drive from Wisconsin, from Green Bay, Wisconsin, from his hometown. He's played there his entire career. Played at Wisconsin. Um, I'm sorry, I don't know if he played at Wisconsin or Iowa. Now I'm at a loss. He played for either one of those two schools. I want to say it's Wisconsin, but he might have played for Iowa. Riley Reef played for Iowa, that's for sure. I'm thinking he played for Iowa. I really am. I'm seeing a black and gold uniform. But anyway, they offered him more money, and he chose to stay. Who can blame him? I can't get mad at a guy for staying in a comfortable situation, a winning team, great quarterback. But with the Harvin deal, the Clay deal seemed to be the one was the apple of their eye from the start of free agency, and looking at Roman, the offensive coordinator, how he utilizes talks about tight ends in his offense, and given what they did have, like I stated prior, just letting guys go, not really even bothering to talk contract with guys, just, cutting Scott Chandler, letting Lee Smith go, guys who have basically been their tight ends since 2011 for the most part, very pedestrian, plodding. Um, Lee constantly mixing it up, getting a dumb penalty, or just being very, you know, lackluster in the past game. Chandler, I mean, he'd have his handful of good games and then wouldn't hear from him. Not much in the way of a blocker, not a guy you can move around, not a guy you can detach from the line of scrimmage, not a guy you can, like Swiss Army knife type of player, which Charles Clay seems to be, or he's going to be put in that role in this new Bills offense. Like I think I've said this before, if I haven't, because it's been forever since I made a video. Really, if you have rewind, go back and look at the way Roman utilized Vernon Davis and Delaney Walker when he had those two together. And I think that's what we'll see in terms of Bills' offense in 2015, something similar to that. Obviously, the 10,000-pound elephant in the room is quarterback. It seems to be a three-headed monster at this point with Manuel, Castle, and Tyrod Taylor. I know they can talk up Jeff Toole. They can, and if he's in the mix and he does something, great. I won't root against him. So you could say all four. And I think they just keep the best three. I don't think they'll allocate a draft pick towards a quarterback. If and they do, they either release, move, cut a current quarterback. Obviously, you can't go into camp with 4 quarterbacks and get adequate reps for those quarterbacks. I think they'll find the 2 that they like and, disperse reps that way. They're not going to, you need to develop rhythm, timing, and like we've seen with these OTAs and mini camps, that the way the CBA is, it's so limited that they can't even do on the field stuff football wise with coaches. So they have to really, really allocate these reps the right way in order to get the timing and rhythm down with a new offense and whoever the quarterback is. I think probably by week, honestly, I don't see them naming a starting quarterback unless one really just goes balls out and rips through it and is just so glaringly above the rest. It's just, there's no contest that he's your guy. I think in a perfect world, they would like Manuel to be that guy. They have the veteran backup in Castle, and they just go forward like that. I think that, in their mind, is what they want to happen. How that plays out, we don't know. But the rest of the team looks pretty sound. Offensive line, I really believe like I brought up before, the Balaga deal, even though it didn't go through because he chose to stay in Green Bay, really revealed. I don't think it's being talked about too much either. I really don't believe it, and I follow a lot of Bill stuff online. I really think, in a way, it revealed their plans, if they had their druthers, to move one of their most versatile linemen inside, which is Cordy Glenn. He offers them the most position flex. He's their best lineman, let's put it that way. And he would automatically take an area of extreme weakness and make it into an area of really good strength, depending on what they get out of Richie Incognito or any of the younger backups, like a Cyril Richardson. But we've heard offensive line coach Aaron Cromer. We've heard from him a couple of times. We've heard from Greg Roman a couple of times this week. And as far as they've said, the offensive line is completely, it's a blank slate. Nobody has a starting position from left to right. It is completely open, and that is wow. But if you turn the page back to end of last preseason, they were flipping around the offensive line till the end of the 3rd week of preseason. I think we saw Eric Pears finally get settled in. He was the guard, and he ended up being the right guard all the way through the season. And Chris Williams was the left guard. He ended up getting hurt, and he's still in play. I forgot to mention him, but he's still there. He's still on the roster. But who knows where that goes? Craig Urbick took a pay cut to stay in Buffalo, so being the backup center and a swing interior lineman, I think he stays, barring an injury or anything like that foreseen. I think he stays. I really believe the front office wants to see Kouandjio get a shot at right tackle. I really, truly believe that. And Seanshell Henderson being the left tackle and Glenn manning one of the guard spots, whether it be left or right, I don't know. Incognito at one of them, depending on what they do in the draft. That's going to be a huge area of, where do they go? I don't even do a draft video this year, and it's not because I think I'm going to do a draft video here. I probably will right now, as opposed to like, first round pick, right? I mean, and in a way, do I wish they had a first round pick? I mean, come on, of course I do. We all do, but they don't. So I'm not going to sit here and hit my head against the wall and be like, oh, I can't mock a player to the Bills in the first round. But with that said, whether there's a lot of fans who, throwing stuff at the wall, see what sticks with like the Rivers trade, just you saw quarterbacks being moved a little bit or talked about being moved, rumored, if you will, like a Cutler, who the Bears later came out and said we were with him. RG3, the Redskins came out and said, well, we're sticking with him. And now the whole Phillip Rivers thing, if you notice, Sam Bradford also, if you notice that when that trade example, Philly had a quarterback to send back to St. Louis. And in the Bills' case, they don't have that. They don't have the position to supply the other team with a quarterback or a quarterback on their roster. So that would make that type of trade. Nobody's going to delete a quarterback off their roster that they feel positively about, or feel like, well, us deleting him is worse than whatever you give us. You can give us a first round pick, but if it's not within striking distance of a quarterback, it makes no sense. That's why when I see these mocks about Mariota falling out of the top 3 to 5, I think it's ridiculous, because I think he's going in that area. Teams are just too needy at the position. It's too much of a polarizing position. Us as Bills fans know, not having had one for so long, not knowing if Manuel is or isn't. And a lot of us feel like he's not. A lot of us are in the don't know section. That's where I am, because 14 games, the dissension behind the walls at one Bills drive, the subterfuge that could have been going on with Marrone, how we know he did business there behind the scenes. It was just not a very advantageous position for the organization currently or going forward, I feel. So how it undermined EJ Manuel's development, I think, was a factor. And you saw the reaction, as we've all seen and talked about, how a lot of people were very glad to see him walk out that door. I mean, we saw it even from former Bills, Thurman Thomas, Jim Kelly, in the SI video with Rex Ryan. Rex Ryan has gone out of his way to address it, that he talked to the team about it in his first address to the team. And I feel like he went up there and said in his own fashion that this fucking guy, sorry to my language, walked out on you guys because he thought he was too good. And I'm here to tell you that, F him. Who does he think he is? And I'm not going to do that to you. And I don't think, having seen what Ryan went through here in New York, knowing that there was a segment of the Jets organization that was undermining him, and then there was another half that was still in his corner, namely the owner. Woody loved him, still does. But there's a lot of Woody's people that aren't in the football business, that are more or less Johnson & Johnson people, that were like, this guy is just too, there's too much bravado going on. The money, now that Woody had started getting the pinch from the new stadium and then seeing the product diminish and not allowing or purposefully not having the new GM saving all the money and just trying to hoard it, and now McCagney can come in and just spend it all, and everybody's championing him and nothing against him. It's the situation he was hired in. Same with Bowles. Both seem like good guys, and they're just taking the situation that they were given. So I mean, it's 50-50. But back to the Bills and this draft. Sorry to go off on a sidetrack tangent, but with the Bills in this draft not having a first round pick, you look at it and it's really hard to ascertain anything in terms of where they might go in position. And that's kind of fun in a way. It's like, because when you have a first round pick, you really are able to hone in on, okay, this position, that position, something. Like last year, it was like, we know we're going to get a playmaker, at a skill position, whether it was Eric Ebron or last year, Mike Evans or Odell Beckham Jr., Sammy Watkins. We're going to get a playmaker at this position. But this year, it's like, well, we don't know what position they're going to take. I honestly think, and this is my opinion again, they're going to sit back, they're going to have their board, and despite what they tell you and don't tell you, they'll sit there and they'll say, well, we do our due diligence on all the prospects, and we research them all, and even the ones. I think they know the block of guys that are going to be out of their range, the guys that are going to be gone by the time they pick at 50. I think they have, obviously the two quarterbacks, some defensive linemen, the wide receivers. A lot of them are going to go. Some of the top end corners, interior defensive linemen, some of the tackles, and they're just going to start knocking names off the board. And who's ever the best guy that they get in terms of, regardless of position and irregardless of position, whoever the best guy is, once the 49th pick is done with and they're on the clock, whoever that best guy is, they're going to take him. And I also touched on, I don't think they're moving in this draft either. I don't think they're going to try to trade up. I don't think they're going to try to do anything cute here. I honestly don't. And I know that's a bold statement given the way this front office has operated, in the recent past, going back to last offseason with the Sammy Watkins trade. We've seen a lot of very bold moves. I see them, saying, hey, we did what we did last year. This is a new year. We want to go in with, new coach, GM hopefully still in place. We want to go in fully loaded for next year with a first round pick, fourth round pick, good ammo for the top, normal ammo for the top 150 players or in that zone. So I honestly think, I know there's a lot of buzz about the two quarterbacks, Grayson and Petty. Friend's a big Petty fan. I'm more of a Grayson guy, but I also like Manny a little bit. He played the most under center, big arm, drive the football down the field kind of guy. Just looking at the roster the Bills have and looking at some of the visitors they've had, I honestly think once they get to 50, they're going to look at whoever the best tight end, offensive lineman, defensive back is on their board. So it'll be tight end, O-line, D-line, DB. They're going to go through those four positions and see who do we like the best here. And you've seen, and they've met with all the quarterbacks, sans Mariota and Winston, whether they did a private with Petty and Grayson. They met tight ends Blake Bell, Clyde Warford. They even met with Nelson Aguilar. That was reported today by, I think, a National Football Post, that they met with a wide receiver, of all things. So who knows? If they have him highly rated, and they feel like, well, you know, behoove ourselves not to take him. Who knows? But O line, the defensive line depth, because that's such a strength of their team. If they were to suffer an injury there, that could really hamstring such a strength. And then later in the three, go back, revisit the board, obviously, because that's what we're all going to do. Let's be honest, Bills fans. We're all going to sit here on Thursday and just knock names off. That's what we're doing that night. We're just crossing names off. We're going to cross 32 names off of a sheet of paper or an Excel spreadsheet or whatever we have, and then we're going to. The fun part on Friday is redoing the board and however you like to do it, and just saying, okay, there's these guys, which one falls to us, and that's when we're really going to be able to have some more. We're gonna have fun. We'll be down that Thursday, but excited that Friday because we know, okay, we're getting 2 new Bills, and that's always fun for any guy, any team, any fan. It's always the new hope, the new. That's what makes this so fun. It's the season outside of the season. It's the season within a season. That's the off season. It's amazing. Defensive linemen they met with 2, as reported. Carl Davis and Nate Orchard. Nate Orchard, more of the edge rusher, undersized guy in the 9 technique type of role, similar to Jerry Hughes. I could see that. I could see them saying, well, if one of these guys goes down, we have a void there. So let's put this guy in. Or Carl Davis. We saw when Marcel Darius went down in that Raider game, how the Raiders were able to just manhandle the Bills on the defensive line, wear them down. Now he could be a fit, maybe with Rex wanting to use more 3-4 looks or fronts, if you will. And then DB Byron Jones. Who knows if he falls, which I doubt he will, but with the athleticism, the size, you have McKelvin, for my opinion, is a guy who might be on the outs. He's been with the team a long time. He's never really made that jump. He's kind of lingered there. He's been passed over several times. He started as a necessity. He had his best year last year. I'm sorry, the year before last in 13. And he had his most interceptions last year, but there was a lot of lapses, obviously, in the coverage again. And he's just a guy, I think, that he's got a big price tag next to his name, so maybe he's a guy they move on to. Tight ends, like I said, the way Roman likes to use them, there's a guy like, if Max Williams falls to that spot, if Clive Walford, or they might say, hey, he's too good to pass up, because those kind of guys are red zone killers, and it seems like the Bills always get to or around the 20. They just never are able to get that just final nail in there, and just like, hey, we have this guy, and we're going to create a lot of confusion on their back end, and we're going to get somebody open because somebody's going to make a mistake in coverage. Then there's offensive line. Who knows? Maybe Ali Marpet, the Hobart guy. Maybe they see him as a center. They can move Wood to guard, or he can play guard. He played tackle at Hobart, but a guy with that versatility and that type of demeanor. Here he's a real surly guy, nasty guy, kind of guy that they talk about, Roman specifically, and Ryan. Tyler Sambrillo from Colorado State, the tackle. He's another guy they met with. So, yeah, it seems like there's 8 positions, DB, D-line. I mean, I kind of lumped the end and tackle in together. The O-line, I really didn't, separate the guard and I didn't really separate the guards and the tackles. I just put them all as O-linemen because you have no idea where these guys are going to play. I mean, Marpet could come in and be such an awesome center, they have to tell Wood, you have to move to guard. Who knows? I'm just throwing stuff at the board right now. But that's the fun part about this draft, is that's what we're doing. I mean, I have them all written out here on a notepad on my computer, just looking at them, seeing like, oof, Maybe they take Aguilar if he's there, and he's a dynamic punt returner, or he's an awesome receiver, and that's kind of a thing. Not kind of a thing. It's a thing I like that they did. They didn't just stand pat and said, "Well, we like Hogan going forward. And Hogan's a good guy. He's a great story. He's a Jersey guy, so I root for him. But is he as talented as Percy Harvin? No. Is he as dynamic? Is he as explosive? Is he Percy Harvin at his best is light years better than Hogan, and that's just the truth. So they didn't sit around and just say, "Hey, well, we got this guy. We don't need anybody right now. We don't need a third receiver. Well, we got Chandler under contract, so we're okay there." And I feel like that a lot of times that happened, but we had seen Whaley many times since he took over the job try to get a tight end. First year it was Fred Davis. That didn't work out. He visited, but it just didn't come to fruition. No more cash to cap situation with this team either. That's why you've been able to see the glut of moves and extensions that this team's able to pull off, because they're not operating under the same monetary restrictions as they were under, the Ralph Wilson regime, or the Ralph Wilson trust, if you will. The second year, there was talk he was very into Eric Ebron. He was big on him. There's another guy tried with Tony Moeaki. He threw it, darted the board, see if it stuck. The guy couldn't stay healthy. The book on him was true, and he had to move on. There's another name in there that's escaping me right now in terms of a tight end that they had looked at, a veteran. It didn't come to pass. They were talking to. I don't know if it's a free agent visit or something to that effect. They tried, they drafted Chris Gragg in the 7th round just to see, here's an athletic guy, a guy who can move around, former wide receiver, let's see. So they've tried to upgrade the position in a way. But obviously with Clay, and I don't know how they feel about Marquise Gray. I don't know how they feel about, Gragg. Again, everybody said to have a clean slate. So I'm going to take them at their word and see what happens. How well he galvanizes the locker room, and I think he's done a great job so far. Given what you've heard from players, it's a much different environment in the halls at One Bills Drive than it was under the prior coaching staff, or head coach, I should say. But that's all I have right now, Bills fans. I'm curious to hear about what your thoughts and comments are. LeSean McCoy, all the stuff that's going on. If I would have, I've said this so many times, if you would have told me, 4.5 months ago that all this, I'd have been like, that's fantasy football storybook movie type crap. That doesn't happen in real life. All those radical changes, the trade of Kiko Alonso, and such a favorite, and then the reported release of Fred that didn't happen. I just felt there was too much at the time. There was too much. I think they all sat there and said, "There's too much feel good going on right now with this organization to do this." But if Bryce Brown comes in and outperforms him and is playing really, really well, I think there's going to be hard discussions about a potential release. Especially if Fred is looking his age, and his legs aren't there. But if he comes in and is the hard grinding guy we all know him to be, he sticks. All right, Bills fans, taking up enough of your time, almost a half an hour. It's always fun talking with you guys, or me talking at you, but I love replying and reading comments, whether they're negative, positive, indifferent. I still appreciate it a lot. Have a good one. Take care. Enjoy the rest of the off season. We have a long way to go. We have draft. Then it's funny. We always find this. We have the draft. Then we have undrafted free agency, and you never know who you get there. But we pay attention to it. We look, who are the Bills signing? Who are the Bills signing? And then we go. There's that third wave of free agency where guys, teams draft and they sign the undrafted guys, and then they kind of reboot their rosters and cut guys, and well, we've seen it. And then there's June 1st the June 1st guys that get cut, and then there's pre-camp, in July or late June, early July. I'm sorry. It's then there's always a flurry of moves that happen during camps, during training camp, and in preseason. So there's so much to go on. I don't even bother trying to think about a potential, 53 right now. But it's fun to think about. All right, guys, you have a good one. Take care. Enjoy the rest of your week. Tomorrow is Friday, and we will be soon approaching the draft. We're under 2 weeks, and it'll be fun. Definitely want to hear what you guys feel they're going to do, not having a first round pick, who that pick will be at 50, and possibly in the third. Why not? I honestly think if I had to guess, it's between tight end, O line, D line, and DB. Two out of those four positions are going to be addressed in rounds 2 and 3. All right, Bills fans, have a good week. Take care.